So Shashi, you agree with Nehru when he said a uniform civil code is desirable?
Yeah.
But do you also agree that therefore in 2022 we need to have a relook at it and maybe look at it over the next 25 years as one of the objectives to try and build a more inclusive society, have equal laws?
It shouldn't be a majoritarian code. It should be one that takes into account the views of all religions. I mean, there have been attempts.
Sure.
You know, you come from Goa. There's a uniform civil code there.
So it's already
See
done.
how that worked. Let's say get elements that work. No, but there are elements of Portuguese law there that won't apply in the rest of India. Similarly, now we understand there's an experiment being attempted in Uttarakhand, but you know, Uttarakhand doesn't have too many minorities. The challenge is going to be to take the interests of all groups in a diverse and plural society into account. That's all we're saying.
The Hindu code has already been constantly reformed. Increasingly there is gender equality in inheritance, in marriage, in all matters.
Supreme Court decisions.
And I fully support it. And the BJP, which is in power, has not once tried to reverse anything introduced by Nehru, Ambedkar, Supreme Court. If at all, they've gone the more quote-unquote progressive direction, saying we should have minimum age of marriage is 21, including for women. But the problem is society cannot run in parallel tracks. You cannot have Indian Muslim girls being allowed to marry at 13 because they've achieved puberty, because that's what Fatwa-e-Alamgari says as per the Supreme Court. But Indian Hindu girls can only marry at 21. Similarly, if I support, for example, going as opinion changes, same-sex marriage, but not under the Hindu marriage law, under a uniform civil code. Let consenting adults live a life of dignity. But you cannot put all the reform on the Hindus and say, by the way, a 13-year-old Muslim girl can marry if she wants, and that husband can have 3 more wives. And that is the law of the land. Whether or not it happens on the ground, I agree. We should not demonize the Muslim brothers and sisters. Most of them do not actually do this on the ground. If that is the reality, then why it's even more important for the Congress to get ahead and say, let me take ownership of this reform. What is stopping you?
You know, Shashi Tharoor is caught between the devil and the deep blue sea because, you know,
which one are you?
He's a Congress politician. He's a
sea.
Congress politician and a public intellectual, and sometimes those two self-images tend to collide.
No,
so when
I'm not a Congress spokesman.
When you spoke of a uniform civil code, I could see the smile on Shashi, almost in agreement, but at the same time worried that what will my party say? Will I be the next in line to leave the party? Should that happen?
I'm not a party spokesman. You asked me here to speak in my own capacity, and I'm
Sure.
doing that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm telling you what I believe.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to know that you do believe that a uniform civil code is desirable, but it should be done through a process of consultation.
Exactly.
Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, I think your party will live with that.
Thank you for the
I think
certificate.
he should do a palace coup in the party and take over the party. I see him as an excellent shadow prime minister, if not exactly prime minister yet.
Should I be asking that question here?
Can we move on to the idea of India?
Whether Shashi Tharoor wants to contest as a leader, a future leader of the party, it's been asked before. But you know, linked to that, just since we are looking ahead to 2047, one more fear that is expressed is that by 2047, we could either be a single party autocracy, or we could be a country where, for example, the southern states are increasingly anxious that they are not getting their due in terms of the economic benefits being equally distributed across the state.
Not
That
just
they
economic.
they are the major tax-paying states of this country. They are the economically progressive states, but they're actually losing out when you talk of fiscal federalism. Do you believe we will be more unified come 2047, or do you see still the possibility of parts of India exercising their right to, in a way, express their freedom from Delhi? That we will have to now understand that we are different Indias moving in different directions.
Look, we're all committed to the unity of India, but I think it requires statesmanship in Delhi as well. You don't have to wait till 2047. In 2026, the 84th Amendment expires, and thereafter the government is free to redraw the Lok Sabha constituencies. Now, they can either do it in a way that they can say strictly respects the increased population in the Hindi belt and give themselves, because they're all very strong in the Hindi belt, the ruling party, give themselves a 2/3 majority in the Lok Sabha. Or they can say we've got to find arrangements that take the rest of the country along. Because if they do give themselves that 2/3 majority, and the first opportunity declare Hindi to be the national language, thereby disempowering the non-Hindi speakers, thereby declare a Hindu Rashtra, thereby disempowering the non-Hindu believers, and so on. If they do all of that, you will have a serious crisis of allegiance. Because there will be people in the South saying, why do we want to be part of this experiment? And frankly, these are issues that people in the North have to be much more sensitive to. But if they have the wisdom and the statesmanship to say, we can make adjustments, but we don't have to put ourselves in a position where people will need to fear that, you know, Aryavrat has been recreated in the North and everybody else is a supplicant, subjugated kingdom, as in the bad old days. If they don't do that, they show statesmanship, there's no reason why we shouldn't be a triumphant, unified and successful country.